Hello, hello. How are you all doing this evening? I'm popping in a little early. We're about 10 minutes early. I wanted to make a couple of announcements. Let me get everything ready here. All right. So, I wanted to make a couple of announcements and everything before we got started, and kind of give you guys and girls an update. I've been trying to work on apparel and stuff, things that I can put out for sale, and to go along with the new website launch and everything. And so the shirt designs have come in. I got some samples, some large and mediums. I didn't go through the whole gamut with the extra large, double X, and all that stuff yet until we kind of really do a full launch and stuff. But we have the new website, Build It TV. So we have our Build It TV. This is where we're going to do the full length builds, combination CNC and woodworking builds. So we have white, and we have it in, it's going to be kind of a charcoal gray as well with white lettering. Look, my name's on your chest. We have Spindle TV. Let's see here, Spindle TV. That's going to be the CNC training videos, right? And again, that's also white and gray. And then we have the TV logo on the shirts. It looks like the shirt that I'm wearing here. And then from there we're going to have some hats. Right, these hats are nice embroidered hats with the TV logo. So those are going to be available for sale on the website. These hats are nice. They're the mesh back, cushioned mesh, and just absolute quality hats. I'm very happy with that. And then let's see, what was the other one? Yeah, I think I showed you this. We have the Spindle TV and the charcoal gray as well. But those are going to be available for sale. And the Build It TV website is coming along. I can give you a sneak peek of that. It's not technically live right now, so don't go try buying anything or looking at anything on there because the text isn't completely filled out. But let's see, on camera 2. Let's see if we can move me down to here. So on the Build It TV website, it's a combination of builditTV.com. Spindle TV is housed there as well. There'll be full-length production builds in the Build It TV section. There's going to be full-length tutorial builds in classes, tutorials, CNC CAD CAM classes in the Spindle TV. Going to be able to shop for 3D models, project plans, our merchandise, shirts, hats, and things. There's going to be project plans as well for different shop projects and outdoor projects and all. And yeah, so the website's coming along very well. There's all these are placement photos. I love this guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's a great, funny comedian, but awesome woodworker. Let's see here. Let's go back up to the shop. And in the shop, there'll be different sections. The 3D models, like the Halloween models, chest sets, and things. Remember that Halloween model pack is available for sale. And there's some other various models. So there's going to be a nice place to purchase and download 3D models when everything gets said and done. I'm looking forward to that. The tools section, my tools, it's not nowhere near done yet. This website is still under construction, but this is going to list all the tools that I kind of work with, and cameras and equipment and all that stuff as well. Affiliate links if anyone's interested. But yeah, I'm really happy with the direction that the website is going. We've still got a lot of work to do on it to get it populated and everything. Everything is still kind of generic text, of course. But builditTV.com is coming soon. It's not, I mean, it's live, but it's not ready to go just yet. I got a lot of work to do. The marketing team and I have been working on it hard in the background. We got the new shirts and hat samples in. And it is, I'm stoked about it. I'm very happy with it. Very happy with it. And yeah, so wanted to kind of give that little bit of shout out on things. So I'm happy with it. I love the hats. I'm so stoked with the hat. The sample just came in yesterday, but I love the embroidered flag. Oops, the embroidered flag on the bill, and the TV logo, training videos. But yeah, I'm super stoked with it. It's the first time I've actually wore the hat. You know, it's more of a not wear and look at it and admire it until I order the rest of them in. But hopefully, I don't know, maybe that's just going to be a way to support the channels, to keep things, you know, alive and going well, and you know, place to purchase models. In the meantime, for the models that I do have available for sale, you can always email me at laney.shaughnessy@spindletv.com. And we do have that Halloween pack. I showed it off last week. But yeah, it's I'm happy with the way things are going. It's going, I'd like it to go a little bit faster, but the guys and girls are going as fast as they can with it, and they're doing a great job. We're getting ready to rebrand. My main channel is Build It TV. They're working on, right now they're going through all past videos and deleting what's irrelevant, eliminating videos that, you know, are old, and refreshing videos that are new. And then we're going to get out and start filming again out in the shop. The shop still hasn't progressed any, the building. So, you know, the builders, they're, because of steel and all this, they're way behind schedule. I think they were, it was a few months ago, they were 6 months out and all. I don't know. I haven't got really an update from them lately on what's going on with that, but it's still in the works. So in the meantime, we're going to make do with the space that we have and do our best to get things up. Hey, Dave Gatton, how you doing, bud? But yeah, we're gonna we're rocking it out the best we can. So I just want to give you guys and girls that quick update. That's why I jumped in a little bit early. But now we're gonna get started. For you, we're gonna do a Q&A tonight. I'm gonna kind of work on a project in the background and go through a Q&A and answer your questions. If you have a question, please put a question mark in front of your question. In the chat area, I will put in a sample. So question mark, how is everyone? Just so how I is, I put an A in front of is, so there was a typo there, but that way I can distinct, is that the right word? Distinct. I can tell the difference between y'all's conversation with each other and questions for me to answer. Dave, man, thanks for popping in. Dave Gatton in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Gatton CNC. Check out his channels if you have never. Dave's a great guy and has some awesome stuff on his YouTube. Dave, thanks for popping in on this Tuesday evening. We're going to do a live Q&A. In the meantime, I'm going to work on some projects, or a project, and just kind of start building through. and then we're going to answer whatever questions you have. Yes, Dave, I am. So, Dave's question is, are you going to get back to real woodworking, buddy? Again, buddy, yeah. So, Dave, my original YouTube channel that's under my name, Laney Shaughnessy, is going to get rebranded as Build It TV, buildittv.com. And on Build It TV, we're going to do full-length builds like I used to do, but there's going to be an incorporation of some CNC elements. And during that build, there's going to be a design phase of that build that would require some, Vectric design work and things like that. And those design videos will be on Spindle TV, so people will be able to watch the full-length build start to finish. But if they're interested in the design part of the project that incorporated the CNC, they can come over to Spindle TV here and catch that design video. And stuff. It won't be a live video. It'll be pre-recorded. But yes, we're gonna get back to woodworking videos. Get back into the shop and crank it out. So yes. So that's good. Thanks for that question, Dave. Yeah, I'm excited too, bud. It's been a long time, and I'm looking forward to getting back out there and getting active again and getting building. I've been going back to the gym so I can lift plywood sheets and MDF sheets again. I used to, be able to fling those things around the shop. And as I got older, that got less and less able to do. So I'm back at the gym every morning and pumping up these muscles so I can start flinging some wood around again. Forgot how heavy those boards and sheets are. Okay. All right, let's get over to the our screen here. It's going to be on camera 2. Let's throw me down in the bottom left corner. There we go. Yeah, that'll work. If you are watching on your channel and everything, there is a setting. There's a little gear icon. I think it's a little gear icon on your YouTube video where you can change the setting to turn the resolution up, so things are clear for you and stuff. And yeah. Yes, Bob Farrell has a great question. This was supposed to be part of that announcement that I was making earlier. Bob says, Laney, are the files available somewhere for the Scrabble board? Also, last week's tutorial, can you make the SketchUp file available? So there are 3 projects that I am working on to get available. One was remember a couple of weeks back, the wall hanging Scrabble board. I've got that one nearly completed. It's going to be, those files are going to be available, I'm hoping sometime throughout this week to get that ready for you. That's the one I really want to get out because it's a fun big project with the magnets and stuff. But yes, Bob, that is coming out. I think you might have asked me that earlier, Bob, and it wasn't quite ready, and we're getting closer. The chess project that we did this past couple of days, that file is going to be available too. I'm working on that. There's a lot of different elements and stuff to get those organized and all. I'll put the links for the download in the description of the videos for those. In the future, so right now the links will be available in the description of the videos for the download. In the future, when Build It TV launches, then the files will be available there for download and stuff. But yes, I can make the SketchUp file available, Bob, for that chessboard. I can make the SketchUp. I can put the SketchUp file in the folder for the download. Yes, I can. And also, and speaking of SketchUp, I mentioned this last week. Now, I am somewhat proficient in SketchUp. But I only became proficient in SketchUp by watching Jay Bates, Jay's Custom Creations. His SketchUp tutorials are phenomenal. You can go to his website, Jay's, J-A-Y-S, jayscustomcreations.com, and he's got a section in there, his SketchUp tutorials. Jay is really good. I forget, last time I looked, he had like 50 videos, and I went through a marathon and watched every one of those videos, not knowing anything about SketchUp. And when I completed those videos, they're short to the point. Here's how to use this tool. Here's how to use that tool. Blah, blah, blah. And when I got done, I was able to design my projects, and I started using SketchUp from that point on to do my 3D renderings, to visualize my project before it goes out in the shop and stuff. And so some of you last week had mentioned making, like me, doing SketchUp tutorials, and no, I'm going to leave that to the experts. And Jay, I would consider, for me, Jay's Custom Creations, and he's got a YouTube channel too. Check out his YouTube channel. But I would consider, I would recommend him by far. And great guy. I know Jay, and also Jay's Custom Creations if you want to learn SketchUp. I believe on his website he has the link for, still available for the SketchUp 8 free version, before it went Pro and all that stuff. So you can still get the free version. That's the version that I use, the version 8. And it's just a great program to really visualize your projects and all. So cool. But yes, Bob, I'm hoping I think today is Tuesday, so I'm hoping by the end of the week that the Scrabble board project will be ready to go, all organized and nice and stuff, and it'll be good to go by the end of this week. The link will be in the description. I'll throw out on Facebook the Spindle Training Videos channel, Spindle TV channel, Spindle Training Videos. I'll throw out a notification that the link is available in the description, and I'll put it in a comment in that video as well that the link is available for download. Okay, all right, so great questions. Thanks guys for that, and thanks for following instructions and putting the question mark in there. But any questions you guys have about Vectric, it could be questions, very simple questions, it could be complex questions, anything about VCarve Desktop, VCarve Pro, Vectric Aspire, whatever you got, throw them at me. You ask, I'll answer. In the meantime, so we're not sitting there waiting for questions to pop up and stuff, I'm going to work on a project over here. I'm in Vectric Aspire, and I'm going to work on just a Thanksgiving sign, just a very simple Thanksgiving sign. I'm going to use one of our 3D model pumpkins in the sign, so you can see that, and that are available in our Halloween individual models or Halloween packs. And yeah, so let's get into it. Let's create a new file here, and let's start with a single-sided job. I'm going to go long on this one. I'm going to go about 36 inches, and I'm going to go, let's go with a typical 1x12, 11 1/4 by 3/4. That'll be good. And I'm going to touch off on the material surface and start from the bottom left corner. Now I want to, because I'm going to build a little bit of a component there, I'm going to do it two ways, one sign two ways. So I want the higher resolutions than what the defaults are. So I'm going to hit cancel on this, and I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to hold the shift key while I click create a new file project. And let's do that again. 36 by 11 1/4 by 3/4, and I'm going to go extremely high on that, not the maximum, just extremely high is fine, and we'll click OK. All right, so we got another question from Charles. Guys, be sure to put a question mark in front of your question, but anyway, that's fine. I can read that. We're not have a whole lot of conversation going on. How do you get VCarve to carve deeper? Well, what many of you may, if you're just getting started and everything, what you may not realize about a VCarve toolpath versus like a profile cut, a pocket cut, or anything, is a VCarve toolpath has no cut depth. It automatically calculates the cut depth based on the space between the two lines that the bit's going to be carving between and the angle of the V-bit. So a 60-degree V-bit's going to carve a certain depth, a 90, 120, 22. You're going to get different depths based on the angle of the V-bit. So how do you get it to carve deeper? There's two ways to do that. Number one is use a narrow angle V-bit from what you're using. If you're using a 90, go to a 60. And that'll give you a deeper cut. And number two, or if you're using a 60, go to a 22. But number two is a start depth. Now, with the start depth, you are telling it, hey, let's say 0 is the top of the board. We're starting lower than 0, so we're starting below the surface to the carve. And you want to go with small numbers on this, maybe like 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, 10, 20, or 30 thousandths. Because the deeper you go, the wider that bit gets. So, depending on how small your letters or your design is and all, we don't want things kind of bleeding together, but we want a little bit more depth and definition. So you can give it a start depth. The best way, and the start depth is great, that's fine, but the best way is really changing the angle of the V-bit, because that way your design will remain the same. It's just the depth of cut will be deeper, giving it more definition, versus if I'm going with a wider bit, if I'm using my let's say 60-degree V-bit and I give it a start depth, I'm having my bit cut deeper in the wood, and so therefore now it's kind of slightly going past the lines and everything because of that angle and how wide it gets the deeper you go. And it could start kind of, if you go too deep on that start depth, it could start kind of bleeding things together, blending things together. So changing the angle of the V-bit is the best way to go, but you can always give it a start depth. If I'm working with small fonts, needed to carve a little bit deeper, I might give it a 10 or 20 thousandths of an inch start depth, and that will carve deeper. We can illustrate that here in the software. Let's open up some text, and let's just say welcome home, and let's give this text a height of 1 inch. And let's find a font that would typically be really thin when it carves, so kind of a real scripty type font. Let's go with Billy Scriptorian. Okay, let's make this. Let's kind of scale this up just a little bit. Okay, now first thing I need to do, because this text has overlapping lines in it, you can see those overlapping lines, I want to weld this text, and I want to replace it with the welded text. Okay, cool. Now in here, if I were to go with a I'm going to hold down the control key and let's throw a copy up here, and I'll actually throw a copy here as well too. Let's start with the first one. This will be a V-carve toolpath, no flat depth, no start depth, and we will use a 22-degree V-bit for this one. 20 degrees, and calculate that. Okay. The second one, we will select the second one here. We will do a same V-carve toolpath, no start depth. Let's give it a 60-degree V-bit. Calculate that. And then the third one, let's same V-carve toolpath, no flat depth. Turn that end mill off. And let's give this a 90-degree V-bit just as an example. And calculate that. Let me go back into this second one here and turn off that end mill and calculate that again. All right, let's zoom in here to these three, and if we preview all the tool paths, okay, you can see the difference in the definition, the depth of cut. If I kind of use the H as an example, with the 90-degree V-bit, I'm carving about 80 thousandths of an inch, a little over a 1/16 of an inch deep, 0.0811. If I move into the 60-degree cut, I'm a little over, let me get into the cut, I'm about 0.15, a little over 1/8 of an inch deep. And I got to turn this one a little bit more. In the 22-degree V-bit, I'm almost nearly a 1/2 inch deep, right, with the 22 on that H. So the changing the angle of the V-bit will provide the depth and everything. If I wanted a little bit more depth, let's say in the 90-degree V-bit, and I wanted to give it a start depth, let's go with 20 thousandths of an inch and recalculate that. And watch that 90, that bottom line down here. Let's kind of zoom in and focus on it so you can see, get a visual of what it looks like now. If I were to preview it with that 20 thousandths of an inch start depth, you can see how it kind of widened things out. And that's okay, and that's good, you know, for, you know, a little bit of definition and everything, but that's not the primary way to go, okay? We want to kind of change the angle of the V-bit to get our depth and definition so that we don't do too much of a start depth, which is okay, but we don't want to widen the letters and everything. You can see how much wider now the letters are than what they were because we said, hey, start deeper, right? So hopefully that helped out Charles Wallace. Okay. All right, so use a narrow angle V-bit. All right, cool. Now, the next question we have is, Laney, do you have any general rule when choosing 3D roughing or 3D finish strategies which overrides going with the grain? So, I am a big advocate of carving with the grain. First off, on the roughing strategy, let's say a roughing toolpath, the roughing strategy, you have Z-level or 3D raster. I never, ever do a 3D raster. I see a lot of people do a 3D raster. That's basically doing the 3D cut with their end mill. They could use a ball nose too, a big ball nose or something. But it literally triples the length of the time of the carve and all. A Z-level raster, that bit end mill is going to just hog away that waste material and stuff. But my raster angle, if my grain is running along my X, I've got a 0 angle. I'm carving along the grain. If my grain's running along my Y, I'm doing a 90-degree angle. If my grain's kind of a little bit all over the place, I might do a 45 and stuff. But your question is, you know, do I have any 3D strategies which override going with the grain? I would have to say, you know, do I have a strategy that overrides going with the grain? No. I always carve with the grain. I'm going to get a cleaner cut, less cleanup and sanding that I have to do and stuff. The only time that I would really kind of override it is if my grain is kind of, you know, going in multiple directions and things on the board, then I'm going to go to 45, where I'm kind of getting a little bit of the best of both worlds on the raster angle. But that's my strategy, and I'm sticking to it. So a Z-level raster on the rough cut, and 90 or 0 degree or 45 degree angle cut, you know, on there. When it comes to the 3D finish is going to be very much similar to the 3D rough cut. I am going to do a raster. A lot of people will do an offset where it just kind of starts in an area and it kind of gets wider and wider and wider and wider and wider as it goes out and carves this model. And I see Vectric, you know, when they're doing their tutorials, they have it set as an offset, you know, where it kind of just works its way out along that model. But for me, I mean, I'm going with the grain against the grain, with the grain against the grain, with that offset and everything, and I never do that. I always do a raster cut. The only time I would do an offset is if I was doing a bowl and tray and my 3D model was a dish, you know, or something, or a platter and all, where it's kind of a dish and it's easy to sand, there's not like a bunch of detail model in there, then I would do it as an offset, you know, and, you know, just, you know, I'd clean that up and stuff. But 99% of the time I am rastering with the grain. Okay. And again, 0 raster angle for me along the X, or 90 degree along the Y, and again 45 if it calls for it. But usually I'm at 0 and 90 because most of my grain on my boards is running one direction or the other. So Brooks, hopefully that answers your question, but I kind of stick to that because, you know, I want a nice clean cut, less cleanup at the end, and all. So yeah, with that. let's see here. David says, I remember being able to put an arc in a line of text by pulling it up or down on a green box in the middle of the line, but I can't remember how to do that. That is the Edit Text Spacing and Curve tool. Let's jump back over to the tools and let's throw some text in here. Let's see here. Happy Thanksgiving. Let's go big like this. And in the Edit Text Spacing and Curve tool, third icon on the text tools, third row down on the Create Vectors menu is the Edit Text Spacing and Curve tool. When you get that, you get your 2 green nodes, so you can pull the text up or flat, and the bottom node, pull it down. All right, so that is the Edit Text Spacing and Curve tool. Cool. Guys, be sure, I'll put another example in the chat area for those that are just popping in. Throw a question mark in front of your question. That way I can differentiate a question that you want answered from conversation that you're having with others. Stephen Cruthis, if I had run the toolpath and wanted to go back over to deepen the cut, it would not let me. So Stephen, is that a V-carve? Is that a, what toolpath is that, Stephen? So Stephen's statement is, if I had run the toolpath and wanted to go back over to deepen the cut, it would not let me. There's a couple of ways that you can approach that. You can approach that on the fly in your controller program. We use Planet CNC TNG. Or you can do it in the toolpath by giving it a start depth. So you can give it you can recalculate the toolpath with a start depth. This again has nothing, I'm not talking about the text and all. We talked about changing the angle of the V-bit and everything, but if you've already carved it with a 60-degree V-bit, don't try to go back with a 22 or something like that to get a deeper cut. It's gonna look ugly. If you've already got the carving and you want to go a little bit deeper, then you go back and you add a little bit of a start depth, recalculate the toolpath, rerun it. That's doing it through Vectric. But if you're doing it on the fly in your controller program, when you raise your Z up, let's say your Z is sitting 1/4 inch above the wood, you can change that Z height to, let's say instead of 0.25, you can make it 0.26, 0.27, change that number, hit enter. Now the machine hasn't moved, but now the software thinks that that bit is sitting up higher by 10 or 20 thousandths of an inch than it actually is, because we've just changed that setting in our Z, but we haven't moved the router. It's still sitting at 1/4 inch above the board, but we just told the software that it's sitting 0.26 or 0.27. So when we hit start again on that same tool path, it's going to carve that 10 or 20 thousandths of an inch deeper, and that's kind of an on-the-fly change to get a little bit more depth of cut. Okay, cool. Hey, Big Daddy Fish, thanks for answering my question. Hopefully, Stephen, that answers your question. There's 2 ways to do that. You can go back, recalculate the toolpath with a start depth, save it, rerun it, or you can on the fly, if in your controller software, change your Z, raise your router up to a certain point and then add to that number. If your Z is sitting in that 1/4 of an inch above the wood, change that to 0.26. That means it'll carve 10 thousandths of an inch deeper now because it thinks it's sitting 10 thousandths of an inch higher than it actually is. Or 0.27, now it's going to carve 20 thousandths of an inch deeper, right? So you change your Z height, you trick your software into saying, hey, my router is actually sitting here when it's sitting here, so it's going to carve deeper, right? Okay, cool. All right, let's get back to my design here while we're waiting for some more questions to pop up. I'm going to start out with a border here. I'm going to just open up my rectangle tool and I'm going to snap right to the corner. I've got smart snapping and geometry snapping on. I'm going to put the mouse right to the corner of my board, drag out a rectangle the full size of my board, and go there. Now, I can come in and click apply. Now these 3 steps that I'm doing, it's kind of my way of doing it, but there's actually a different way of doing it. Let me show you. So what I'm doing here is I'm drawing the rectangle on the outline of my board. Then I'm going to close my rectangle tool and offset that inward by the amount that I want kind of a border, right? So I'm going to go inward on the offset, and I want to go with a 1-inch offset all the way around. And I want sharp corners and everything. So bringing that in. Now, I could have actually just done that right away in the rectangle tool. Let me delete this rectangle here. I could have actually, in my rectangle tool, I could have said, okay, I want the bottom left corner at 0, 0, right? And on my width, since the software knows how wide my board is and it knows how high my board is, my width and my height of my board, I can use the letter X or the letter W for width, or the letter Y and the letter H for height. And I could have said W minus 2 equals on the width, and I could have said H minus 2 equals, and I could click create to create that, and then I can center that, select it and center it on my material to get that same thing, right? Now I could have really done it exactly where it belongs, because I'm stepping over here X and Y 1 and 1, right? If I delete this again, delete, I could have said, okay, the bottom left corner I want at X1, Y1, and I want to go W minus 2 inches, because I'm doing a 1 inch in on the border, 1 inch, 1 inch, that's 2, equals, and H or the letter Y, either one of the 2 will work, minus 2 equals, and click create to create that, right? So I could have done that without creating the full rectangle, doing the offset, and then going back, to the rectangle tool, right? Cool. Either way. Now, while I'm in the rectangle tool, I want to go ahead and do an internal radius. And let's hold the shift key down and select that existing shape there. I want to do an internal radius, and I want to go with about a 1 inch radius there. There we go. Cool beans. All right. Let's get some things on the board. In the modeling tools, I'm going to go ahead and import a 3D model. And I'm going to go into my model files, and I'm going to find, oh, what was it? Is it pumpkin number 2? I think it's pumpkin number 2. Yeah, pumpkin number 2. All right, pumpkin number 2, I'm going to go ahead and center that model. I'm going to go to import position. I want to bring it down. I want to bring the Z plane down to put the model on top. And I want to click import. Cool beans. All right, let's my little samples, let's close this and delete these 3 V-carve sample toolpaths. Well, let's try that. Delete all. All right, cool. There's my pumpkin. All right, I want to take my pumpkin and that's not the right pumpkin. That's a Halloween pumpkin. I'm doing a Thanksgiving sign. Hold on 1 second. Let me hit delete and re-import the model, and it is pumpkin number 4. There's pumpkin number 4. Once again, I'm going to center that model. I'm going to position and import, slide the 0 plane to the bottom, and import. Wonderful. Okay, let's take pumpkin number 4. We're going to throw it right about here. Cool beans. Okay. Looking good. All right, let's go back over the questions. All right, Bob, I have a question. I'm using my new laser, and when it cutting or burning, the Z keeps going up and back down between burns. Where do I change that in the tool area? So your Z axis, that's going to be in the material setup here. Now you got to remember, Bob, it's very important that you remember to adjust these settings back when you're milling with your router, right? But in the material setup on the toolpath side of the software, ignore my error I got going on here, but down here, the rapid Z gaps above material, you're going to change this to 0, 0. And your Z gap above material, you're going to change that to 0 as well. And the actually go 0.0. Yeah, I want to go 0 because your laser, when you zero out, your laser is going to be a certain height above your material, and when you hit start on that home start position, it usually raises the router up, you know, to turn on the router bit and all. Well, in this case, we don't want it to raise up, and between cuts, we don't want it to raise up when it's going from one place to another. So we're going to take out the rapid Z gaps above material. We're going to take out the home position Z gap above material, and this will let me click OK once I fix my pumpkin. 0.75. Click apply. There we go. And you're going to want to click OK and then recalculate your tool pass, and you'll be good to go. But if you do not remember to go back and change those settings, and everything when you come in and carve, then it's going to be a bad day. Okay, so be sure to do that. But there is going to be some movement. You're always going to have movement. The router's going to raise up when you hit start. You're going to have some movement, even if it's 1/4 of an inch and on that, but you can eliminate the movement between the carvings and stuff. Okay. All right, let's see here. David Pingle, doing a sign. Painted the surface of an MDF piece and I cut the sign. What should I use, a poly or shellac on the board before painting the cut sign? Okay, so if you're using MDF and you're going to, you've painted this entire sign, so let's say you have an orange board, right? Now you have an orange board kind of thing. And then you're going to carve, and then you want a contrasting color to carve and everything. What are you going to use to seal? There's two ways that you could go with that. One, you could actually put your finish on, go ahead and finish the board. Whether you're going to do an interior type finish like a lacquer, or you're going to do an exterior type finish like a polyurethane, wipe on poly or brush on poly. Either one of those two, I would personally, after I painted my board, I would use an Auramask product, a stenciling film. But I don't want the stenciling film to stick to my paint and peel it off. So instead of the Auramask 813, I might use the Auramask 810, which has less tack on it and everything, so that I can peel it off that painted board without blemishing it and all. I would probably end up putting a kind of a simple shellac coating over the painting, like a Zenzer spray shellac and all, before I put that Auramask on. And then I just do all my finishing at the end. But you can pre-finish your board, paint it, pre-finish it with your lacquer, your poly, whatever it is that your finish is going to be. Then you can do your carving and you can paint. Now, if you're using like a poly and you're using, like, let's say a water-based paint, like an acrylic or something for the paint, you'll be able to paint in those carved areas and then just wipe off the excess and everything off of that poly and everything and all. But the Auramask for me allows me to paint my board. I'll probably seal it with a Zenzer shellac, put my Auramask on, do my carving, paint. I don't have to worry about over painting and all that stuff because of the ore mask. And when everything's dry, peel it off and then put my finish on, right? So I have no cleanup. So that would be an approach that I would do, David. Can you go over text on text again, specifically flaring out the text so it does not break out? Would you go over zero plane again? Yes. Let's start with Big Daddy Fish. Can you go over text on text? So let's come in here and we'll do, bear with me. Let's go with our text. Let's pick our font. And I'm going to go with a, let's go with kind of a, what do I want to go with the font? Bear with me. Let me find a font that I want to use for this. Elephant, no. Freshman, no, it's too blocky. Let's go here. Let's make this 3 inches. 3 inches tall. And let's go Thanksgiving. Bear with me a second. That's a little too much. Hold on a minute there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go with a saddlebag. Yeah, and let's bring that down to 2 inches. All right, let's size this up. Let's get it centered on the board. And let's bring that in just a bit. Let's take my pumpkin here and size it down just a little bit. Let's move it there. Okay, let me bump this over and down right about there. All right, that's going to be my back text. Let's go ahead and let's get a front text in there. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember the words that go with Thanksgiving. Joy. Oh, jeez. Louise. Let's see here. Have a blessed Thanksgiving. Let's make this a little bit fancier font. Let's go with that Billion script is good. Let's size this up. Kind of like that. All right, I want to get those two things centered, so I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to select, let's close the text tool. Have a blessed and Thanksgiving last. Select Thanksgiving last, and I want to align left to right to get that centered. There we go. All right, I'm going to consider this my original design. Okay. So I've got a vector around my model because I don't want that getting cut. I've got my back text and I've got my front text. Okay. Now on our layers, okay, we're going to, let's get rid of pumpkin 2, delete this, and we'll leave that as pumpkin. But on my layers, I'm going to change the name of layer 1. I'm going to rename this to original. Okay, so I have my original layer. It's my original design. I want to add another layer to this called my top text. Okay, I'll add a third layer called my bottom text. Bottom text only gets used to store the bottom text. It does not get used in a toolpath at all. But what does get used is my welded text. Okay, my welded text. Now, when you said in your question, Big Daddy Fish, is specifically flaring out the text so it doesn't break away. Now, based on the angle of your V-bit, your text is going to have that natural flare to it anyway, depending on how deep your carvings and stuff are. If you were creating this as a 3D model, you do what's called a draft, where it drafts the text, flaring it out. I'm doing this as a straight up V carve, and my letters are gonna have that angle based on the bit that I'm using. And I could go 90, I could go 60, I could go whatever. I'm gonna go with a 60-degree V bit. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to take my top text here and a border. I want to select the border too, and I want to right click and copy that to the top text layer. Okay. Next, I'll come in and turn off that top text layer. I don't need it visible right now. Okay. Then I'm going to take my back text and I'm going to copy that, just the back text, no border. I'm going to copy that to the back text, or bottom text, if you will, bottom text layer. Let's turn that off. Okay. So finally, my border, I'm going to go ahead and copy that, make a copy of that to the welded text layer. Okay. All right, let's turn that off. Now, my pumpkin is just my pumpkin, right, in here. The border for the pumpkin, I don't want that material getting milled away when the top text gets milled. So the border of this pumpkin, this boundary line, this boundary vector, I want to copy that to the top text layer. Okay. And I'm also going to copy that to the bottom, or the welded, not the bottom. Bottom is just holding the bottom letter. The welded text layer. Okay. Now, I am finished getting all the vectors that I need from my original, so I'm going to turn the original off. I can go ahead and turn the pumpkin off for right now as well. And we're going to start with the top text. Now, let's go into my drawing tools here, and I'm going to zoom into this gray area here, and I'm going to draw a 60-degree V-bit. Okay. So this is my 60-degree V-bit here. And this line that I'm going to put straight out at the tip is going to represent my V-bit sitting on top of the board at 0. Okay. Together family. Thanks, Big Daddy Fish, on that one. That's the indication of my bit sitting on top of my board. Now, I have to determine, so I can know what my offset is, how tall are my top letters and my bottom letters going to be. I like 1/8 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch for a total cut of 1/4 of an inch deep. But you can go 3/16, you can go whatever. I don't recommend going too deep or too tall in the letters because it starts to look, a little bit distorted in my opinion. But I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to take this line and I'm going to move it straight up using the move tool. I'm going to move it straight up relative to its position on the Y 1 inch, not 1 inch, 1/8 of an inch up. 0.125, and I'm going to click apply. Now this represents my bit cutting 1/8 of an inch into my material. I need to measure the horizontal offset distance between the point of my bit and the intersection where that bit side is at 1/8 of an inch, right at the top of my board. So I need to measure that intersection. Now for a 60-degree V-bit with 1/8 inch text, it's 0.0722. Always, right? So that's my magic number. That's my offset number. Okay, so 0.0722. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And let's come over here. Once again, let's turn off the original and let's go make sure the top text layer is active. First thing that we're going to do in the top text layer is I need to weld this text together. to get rid of these overlapping lines. So I'm going to go weld, and I'm going to replace with the welded text, because on my original, I have my original text, right? This is the top text layer, so I want to replace it. Now, all of these individual vectors here, they need to be grouped together. Okay, done. Now, on the top text layer, I'm going to take the border for the top text layer and I'm going to offset it inward based on my magic number 0.0722. So on the top text layer, I'm going to take my border and I'm going to offset it inward 0.0722. I do not need sharp corners. I want to delete the original. When I say original, I'm talking about the vector that's selected on this layer. And select the new. So it's going to bring that in. Okay. Now I'm going to come in and select my top text, right click on it, and copy this to the welded text layer. Okay. We are finished with the top text layer. We offset the border in, clean up our text, whatever we need to do as far as welding and all that stuff. Make sure it's grouped together and then copy it over to the welded text layer. Once you're done with that, that layer's finished. Now my bottom text layer is just housing right now my bottom text. That's going to get moved or copied in just a moment, but we're going to leave it right there for now. We're going to jump straight down to the welded text layer. On the welded text layer, my text here, this on the welded text layer, make sure that your welded text layer is active. This is going to get offset outward. This top text is going to get offset outward based on our magic number. So we're going to offset outward this time 0.0722. Don't need sharp corners. Delete the original. Select the new. Okay. Now it's going to look funky when it offsets outward, and you might lose some like lines or something like that, but that's what it's supposed to look like. So leave it be. So once we do that, we have to weld, or not weld, sorry, join that back together. So join that together. Now that's done. That's it. Let's go back to our top text for a moment. Our bottom text, sorry, let's go back to our bottom text for a moment, and we're simply going to take our bottom text and copy it over to the welded text layer. That's it. Done. All right, now bottom text layer gets turned off, top text gets turned on, welded text layer gets turned on. So we should see our double border that offset inward, from the original. We should see our back text, we should see our top text, and then our little offset outward that we did on that welded layer, right? So let's turn off the top text for just a moment, because there's one more final step we need to do in the welded text layer. Once we copy that bottom text over, here's our final step. The text needs to be converted to a curve and then grouped together. Okay? Converted to a curve, then grouped together. Then we're going to take the two groups and we're going to weld them. Now we're ready for tool pathing. We've done everything with the design we need to do. We're ready for tool pathing. So turn on both of those layers there, and your welded text layer and your top text, those are the only two that should be on. And let's come over here and create a V-carve toolpath. All right. V-carve toolpath, we're going to start at 0 and we're going to have a flat depth of 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. We're going to use our 60-degree V-bit that I've calculated my offset for. If you have a 90, do the same thing for the 90, do the same thing for whatever, right? So I calculated my 0.0722 based on a 60-degree V-bit. My clearance tool, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use 2 clearance tools on this. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch end mill to do a majority of the work. And then I'm going to follow that up with my 1/8 inch end mill to get in a little bit tighter in the letters and all. Now, what vectors do we select? We don't go and manually select anything. The reason why we put them on those layers and why we have those 2 layers turned on is because we're going to use the vector selection option above the calculate button down here. Okay? And we're going to go to our selector. we're going to choose all open and closed vectors, and we're going to associate them with a toolpath, and we want the top text vectors. Notice how it selects all the vectors for the top text, right? And now that vector selection, instead of saying manual, it says automatic. So we're gonna, let's change this. We'll put top text here and calculate. Okay. Let that calculate out. And preview that visible toolpath. Whoa! Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. It helps if I... Let me see what I do with my job setup here. Oh, put this... I went the wrong direction. My model's got to be at the top here. At the top. Material setup. Whenever you have a model, don't forget to change your material setup, or else you're going to be cutting through all that crazy stuff and everything. Okay? Alright. Would you like to recalculate now? Yes, I absolutely would. Alright. So, but because I do have a model in this particular project, I need to go to my material setup and make sure that model's at the top of the material, okay? Cool beans. Also want to make sure that project toolpath on the 3D model is turned off. Turned off. That's one of the main problems I had. That's why it cut all the way through. It needs to be off. All right, let's reset that and preview the visible toolpath one more time. That looks much better. We're not cutting all the way through. We're only cutting 1/8 of an inch deep. There we go. There's our top text. All right. All right. Now, going back into our V-carve, I'll go back to the 2D view just so you can see the 2D view. This toolpath is going to start at 1/8 of an inch. It's going to cut another 1/8 of an inch with my 60-degree V-bit, my 1/4 inch end mill, and my 1/8 inch as well. And we're going to, I'm going to raster. I want to raster with the grain. I think the other one was set to raster as well. If not, I'll go fix that. But this is going to be my bottom, right? I'll just call it my bottom text. And on my vector selection, I'm going to hit select, open and close vectors, associate with the toolpath, and this time turn off top text. And I want the welded text layer to the only other light bulb that's on. So that way it selects those vectors. And I'm going to calculate that toolpath. We're going to preview that visible toolpath. My 1/4 inch end mill is going to go in there and do a majority of the work, followed by my 1/8 inch end mill, followed by my V-bit. And we'll have that sign there. And you can see how the letters are flared because of that angle, right? And they'd be even more flared if I was using a 90-degree V-bit and things like that. But I really like a 60 and everything. So there's my text on text. Now I got to do my pumpkin, right? My pumpkin. First thing that I have to do with my pumpkin model is let's go into the modeling tab and select my pumpkin here. And my maximum cut depth is 1/4 of an inch, right? So my pumpkin model needs to be at only 0.25 inches tall. Okay. All right, so I want to do that. And I want my pumpkin, if I close the preview for a minute, just only needed 1/4 inch tall. All right, so for the pumpkin, first thing is I'm going to do a rough cut, 3D rough cut on this selected vector here. I'm going to use the selected vector. There we go. And I'm going to Z-level raster it with a 1/4 inch end mill. My 3D rough cut, we're going to calculate that. Okay, preview that visible toolpath. Okay, once again, when you change this, make sure, notice how when I changed the size of my pumpkin, it buried that model in the middle. Make sure that sucker's up at the top. And let's redo that toolpath. One more time. Calculate. Wonderful. Let's reset that preview and preview all the toolpaths once again because I screwed up. When you change that model size, when you do anything with that model, when you scale it, when you change the Z height, you've got to go to that material setup and make sure that model is positioned in the material properly because it will adjust itself based on what you're doing and all. So it's very important. All right, 3D rough is done. With that vector still selected, we're going to do a 3D finish. Now on the 3D finish, I'm going to use an 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. I am going to use the selected vector as the boundary. And I'm going to let the bit go past the boundary. I want it to kind of blend and everything. I'm going to let it go past the boundary by 0.127, a little more than 1/8 of an inch. And that's my 3D finish cut. And that's going to blend that model in with that bottom of that pocket, you know, that 1/4 inch cut and everything. So it lets that bit go past the model so it blends that model in with the bottom of my cut here. All right, so there is my text on text with a little pumpkin in the corner. Right? All right, that was a long explanation for that question, but hopefully it gave you, that's a full walkthrough on a text on text. Okay? Full how-to right there. All right, let's go back up and let's see here. Brooks Martin, Stephen Kurthis, would you go over the zero plane again? So, you have a natural zero plane. Let's turn this up on its side. In your material, which is basically a center line, you know, on the thickness of your material. Because, you know, on top of the zero plane is the top half of the board. Below the zero plane is the bottom half of the board. Like if you were doing a two-sided project. We're not doing a two-sided project, so we need our model, since it's a one-sided project, to be above the zero plane. So when we are importing a model in, let's just grab that same model for reference there, and we center that model, it puts it in the center. So if I turn this up on its side, it is in the center of my material. Now it's taller than my material right now. I've got to change the, you know, Z height of this. It's right now currently 1.488 inches. I'm going to size the Z. I want to keep the, let's see, let's go 0.75 just for explanation purposes. Click apply on that. Okay. So on this zero plane, this line here, my model is half on this side, you know, side 2 and side 1, you know. I need, when I go to position this, I need, here's my zero plane, this black line. This is a one-sided model, not a two-sided model. So I need to bring the zero plane down, which puts my model above the zero plane. Okay, I'm going to be carving it in the, you know, on the front side. Now that model may be carving down 3/4 of an inch deep. It may be carving down 5/8 of an inch deep. That has nothing to do with it. I need to be above the zero plane. I need to tell the software that, hey, this is a single-sided model and I need it above the zero plane on side 1. Okay, not side 2. So when I import this in, it's going to bring my model in, and if I close this preview for a minute, it's going to bring that model in and it's going to have it positioned in my material. Now in my material setup over here, I need to make sure that I position my model, and let's make my model size a little bit smaller so I can position it because it's right at the same size as my board. Let's go 0.25 like I had it right in the design. So my model, represented by this light tan area here, is sitting at the bottom of the board. I need it at the top. It's going to be on side 1 at the top of the model. Okay, I don't want it in the middle. I want it at the top. If this was a two-sided job, I may want it in the middle, because I want to mill off some wood on this side to get to the model, some wood off this side to get to the model. My model is going to be in the middle of my board, but I need it at the top, right? So it's positioned properly. It's very important that we set that material position, that model position in the material. We've said, hey, put it above the zero plane in the import. Now that it's there, where is it actually going to get positioned in our material? And 90% of the time, a model like this is going to be at the top. Okay. Now you can add a little bit of gap above the material, let's say 0.010 of an inch and all, so that it mills away that little bit of wood before it starts carving the model, to give that, to eliminate any possibility of flat spots and all. But you got to remember, if you add that 0.010 of an inch, your model's now sitting down at 0.26 inches, that model Z plane, right? So then that means that I have to adjust that on my regular tool pass, for that text on text, so that when everything is all said and done, that I'm at 0.26, not 0.25, right? Otherwise, my model is going to be sitting down another 0.010 of an inch deeper than the bottom of my pocket. All these things play a role with one another. In this case, I want the model at the top with no zero gap above the model. So that way my zero plane is at 0.25, the bottom of my pocket. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and delete that second model. And let's go back into our preview here. So that is a text on text, and that explains also the Z plane, All right, let's go back up and let me find, let's see here. All right, Brooks Martin this time. Laney, in my older neighborhood, the fire station sold reflect address markers. Do you know what and where to get that paint? Reflective paint? For markers and all? Lowe's. Reflective paint for any Amazon too, but let's go to Lowe's. Hold on a second. Lowe's.com. And shout out to Lowe's. All right. Reflective paint, marking paint. I think it might be called marking paint, but we'll call it reflective paint. Yep, it's going to be called marking paint. Marking paint. Okay, and so they have a variety of colors. I think they have safety yellow, safety orange, or safety green is not safety yellow. Safety green, safety orange. It looks like yellow. It's bright neon. I think they have red, but either Amazon or you can go down to your. They've got white and all, a blue. But you want the reflective kind, for your signs and all. So, like the flare red, orange and stuff. But it's called marking paint, right? Amazon, Lowe's. I don't know about Home Depot. I'm not a Home Depot shopper, but, not against Home Depot, but I'm just not a shopper there. So I don't know what they have, but that's what it's called. All right, so Brooks, let me know if that helped answer your question. All right, back to Big Daddy Fish. Where is a good place to get some HDU boards for sign making? Now, I get mine from a place called Grimco. They are a large supplier, so they probably have locations. I mean, they're a nationwide provider, so you should be able to go in and find like a location or something. You do have to set up an account with them. You have to have an account, a purchasing account with them. but they're Ultra UHD. I always get my sign foam. I always get my anagrams and everything mixed up. The Duna core foam, the 20-pound foam core boards is what I usually get. It's either going to be the 15 or the 20 pound, but Duna core foam is a great brand. But either the 15 or the 20, either one of the two. And but that's where I get mine, Grimco. I'm sure there's other places, but it's you know, high density urethane, HDU sign foam. You know, now keep in mind, and I'm sure you probably already know this, but you know, it comes in different sizes: 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and everything. And a 4x8 sheet, 1.5 inch thick, the Duna Core foam is about $525 for the sheet. Okay. All right. Cool. But yeah, you should be able to, Grimco, it's nationwide. You should be able to kind of find an area there, or find just HDU sign foam supplier near me. Right? You can Google search that, use the word near me, and it'll find something for you. All right. Let's see. Cadley Peterson. Cadley, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Can you demonstrate the setup for a laser project? I can. I don't have my laser module tools here in my new software. I haven't downloaded the license for it yet. But yes, I can. Let me see if I can. Let me see if any of my older software will let me open it. Where's my Aspire 10.5? I think yep, that should. All right, so that's expired. Let's go to. I don't think I got, bear with me, I don't think I have my laser module. You want the laser module. I don't think I have my license for the laser module yet. Sell that digital. Bum, bum, bum. Stand by 1 second, folks. All right, let's see where my license is. Give me just a second, folks. Module. Okay. Below a list of the machines, digital wood carver. Okay, I do not have the laser module yet license in here in this training software, so we're going to wing it. All right, so let's create a new layer. And I mean, let's turn off all the other layers. A laser project is very much like a V-carve project. Okay, so you're going to have your graphic, you're going to have your text, you're going to have your design, whatever it may be. Okay, and you're going to, let's weld that together. All right, on your vectors, you're going to have two toolpaths. You're going to have what's called a laser cut and fill, which is very much like the quick engraving toolpath here, so I'll use this as an example. Or you're going to have a laser photo. Well, this is not a photo, it's not a picture, it's not a JPEG, PNG, whatever. We're not doing a laser photo, we're doing a laser cut and fill. You'll need the laser module. With the laser cut and fill up at the top here, that looks nothing like this. I said it's very similar. It is because of the, you're either doing an outline or a fill cut. But at the top, you're going to put in your power. You're going to put in your percentage. For me, it's 0 to 100%. 100% being full power of the laser. Depending on your engraving and the power of your laser, you're going to probably, set that depending on, how much shading you're going to get. So for me, it'd be, let's say 40% power. Then you're going to put in your feed rate. So how fast is my, CNC moving? And the slower I'm moving, the more concentrated that beam gets to engrave deeper. So if I'm going really fast, then I'm getting a shallow laser engraving. If I'm going slow, I'm getting a deeper one and all. For me, I'm going to go about 48 inches a minute or 1200 millimeters a minute. Either one of the two, they're both the same. But for me, I work in inches per minute, so 48 inches per minute, and at a power of 40. So based on that power setting and that speed setting, that's going to determine the depth of my engraving. Now I'm going to have to choose in that laser cut, am I doing an outline, meaning that I'm carving either on the outside, inside, or on the line? So my laser beam is following the line here. Or am I doing a fill where it's actually engraving between the lines? So in that laser cut and fill, you're going to choose outline on, in, or out, meaning you're cutting on the outside of the line, the inside line, or on the line, depending on what you want your laser to do. Or you're doing a fill, okay, a hatch fill, meaning it's carving between the lines. In this case, I would do it as a hatch fill, so that I'm engraving this out. I'm going to simulate this with my quick engraving tool, just as a just because I don't have the laser module. Let's go to here and grab this. All right, now depth and pressure means nothing to me here because I'm engraving, but I am, so you can see a preview of this, I am going to put a little bit of a depth in here, but you don't do that. It's based on your power and your speed in the laser module tool. But I will be doing a fill cut, and it's going to be a kind of a hatch fill, and for me it's 45 degrees. Okay, I hatch fill at 45 degrees. You're going to calculate that laser cut and fill tool path, and Bob's your uncle. You're done. It's very much similar. You create your text, whatever it may be, your object, your image that you're going to, and you're either engraving between the lines or you're engraving on the lines. If it's an actual photo, a photo of a person, a photo of whatever, then you're doing the laser photo. And on the laser photo, you have a maximum power that you want. Let's say I go a maximum power of 50, a minimum power of 0, so I want it to cycle between those two numbers based on the light and the dark areas in the photo. In the white areas, it's going to turn off. In the dark areas, it's going to turn on. In the gray areas, it's going to be at a lower power. It's going to cycle. It's going to pulse width between that. And you're going to have a feed rate. 48 is kind of my go-to number. and it's going to laser engrave the photo, right? You don't trace the photo or anything like that. It's just going to laser engrave on that photo. There are videos. You can watch a video on my YouTube channel on how to laser engrave tile, which shows how to do a laser setup with the laser module tools. And that's as far as I can take this because I don't have the laser module right now, the license right now in this software. So hopefully that helps. But go watch my how to laser engrave tile on Spindle TV, and that'll be a full walkthrough for you. Cool. All right. Let's see here, Cadley. Hopefully that answered for you. Put those question marks in front of your questions, guys, so I can differentiate between y'all talking with each other and a question. Blue Knight, I think, is the question. When you set up 2 clearance, will the 1/8 inch end mill go completely back over the 1/4 inch? No, no. So in the top text here, let's go back into our preview and all. Our 1/4 inch end mill is going to do all of the major where it can fit kind of work, and then the 1/8 inch end mill is just going to do in the areas where the 1/4 inch bit could not fit. So it's going to do these little tight areas here in between the letters and then around the border. So it's not going to redo anything. It's just going to get into those tighter areas to clean up that just a little bit more, right? And then finally my V-bit is going to come and do the final work, right? So no, the 1/8 inch does not go all the way back over everything you just did with the 1/4. That would be a waste of time. It's only going to do where the 1/4 inch bit couldn't fit, right? And wherever the 1/8 inch bit can't fit, then the V-bit will take over and do the flat work. Okay, those areas are indicated by these little tool marks you see right here. All right, cool, good question. Let's see here. I found the pumpkin on Design and Make. Thanks for the quick and simple way to do stacked text. You're welcome, Steve. Let me get rid of this, delete that, and let's preview all toolpaths here on this again. So that can preview. And then let's go to the next question. John, I don't know if this is a statement or question, but I am interested in creating transposition models to create artwork. Is there a way to build an array with a model? So let me see if this is what you're asking. I'm going to take this model for a minute and size it down, just because my board's small. I can use the array copy tool here. Okay, there's 2 things that I'm going to do. One is I'm going to create a texture background based on a model, and then I'm just going to create an array. So I'm not sure which of the 2 you're talking about. I'm going to show you both of them. In Vectric Aspire, in VCarve Pro and Desktop, I can use the array tool, and let's say that I want 3 rows, 6 columns of this model with a gap of a 1/2 inch in between. Okay, I can copy that to create that array, okay, of those models, right? That's an array. I can tighten the spacing up, whatever I want to do. But now let's take this and let's undo that, and let's create an actual textured background based on a model. So for this, I'm going to use a different model. Let's start a new layer here and turn off that pumpkin for a minute. And I'm going to go to my clip art. And in my clip art, gallery. Let's go with this diamond plate pattern here. Diamond plate. All right, I'm going to bring this down to size a bit. Okay. Now the tool that I'm going to use in the modeling tools, and it is the create a textured area. Okay. And right now I'm going to make a diamond plate, but it could be anything. You know, I could just create a unique wall pattern. I have all kinds of different textures that I could use. You know, I could create a stone background and all, but I'm just going to do a diamond plate. So in this texture pattern and everything here, all right, I need these patterns to step over. I'm going to step over 50% here. I'm going to shift this over, let me see, it's been a long time since I've done the diamond plate, 50%, and I think this one's also 50%. I want to change the reflection. This is going to go that way on the second row. Let me click apply. Let me see if I am even anywhere near. Yeah. Okay, close, but I wasn't right on it. Let's see here. What do I need to change? My second row. Let's take this one off. Reset and apply. Nope, it was the wrong one. This is going to be 0. This is going to be 50%. It's one of these. It's been a while since I've done a diamond plate. And this has got to get shifted over. Let's see, my first row, second row needs to get shifted up 50%. One more time, let's give this a try. One of these three has got to be the right pattern. No, that's even not right anyway. But you get the idea, right? I can create that array pattern, you know, whatever it is. Let's do just from clip art. Let's grab this rock pattern here, you know, whatever it is, and let's size it down. Let's get rid of that diamond plate. It's on that diamond plate. It's either 50 or 30%, 33.3%. I think it's 33.3, a third. I don't know. I have to go back and look. I did a class on diamond plate not too long ago. But on this one, once again, that array tool, I want to step over the 100% on this, up 100%. I don't want to shift anything and all, and I don't want to reflect anything, and apply to create that array. Oh, you son of a gun. All right, one more time, Laney. This is going to be 0 and 0. Let's try that again. Okay, to create that, you know, that rock pattern, that background. I don't know if any one of those scenarios are what you're asking, John, but that would be the two ways. Your create texture area tool to create that array of the model, or using your copy array tool depending on what it is. But this texture area, create texture area, is only an Aspire model project, Aspire project. So you have to have Aspire to be able to do that, create that textured background. Okay, All right, cool. All right, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. All right, let's go back into our 3D view here. And let's go with Tom Savadell. Let me know. I don't mean to butcher your names, guys. Can you invert the pumpkin model so it scoops in the wood versus raised up? Yes. So if I wanted that to be that way, I would go into the properties of the model, and instead of it being an add, it would be a subtract. Okay, so let me close this and go into the 3D view. And let me add a bit of a zero plane so you can see this. Let's zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. So it's scooping in to the material in that model shape, you know, whatever it is. If the model is an add, then it's extruding out of the material, right? Okay. And let's give the pumpkin a little bit more body, just so you can see. Let it rebuild itself. Not that much body. Hold on. That's a little bit too much curve there, boy. 0.375. All right, so as an add, it's extruded. As a subtract, it's going to dish in. And on this, I want no zero height. My model needs to be at the top of the board. Remember that material setup, right? And so it dishes in. That's how you would invert it, Tom. Okay. All right, let's fix that. Let's get rid of this zero plane. Do not need that. Delete. Let's change this pumpkin back to this and change it back to 0.25. Close that and go back into my material setup and make sure it's at the top. Wonderful. Okay. So, what's our next one? Brooks, hey Laney, what about V11's new sculpting component brush? Oh, that's a fun one. So in the modeling tools, we have the new sculpting brush that we can do. Let's come in here and go to sculpting. Let's twiddle our view so I can zoom into that pumpkin. Okay. Now, in our add, if you will, we can use a component brush. And there are lots of preloaded component brushes that are that came with the new V11. Let me go to Vectric files, sculpting brushes. There's quite a lot of different samples. Let's go with, let's maximize this out and let's go view large, extra large icons. So we've got some bark, some cloud, you know, one that looks like a cloud, cracks. You've got some fine feather, left foot, right footprint, some grass, gravel, little grid, pyramid. That was something I made the other day. Sample mountains I did the other day. That was mine. So sand, little birds, little seagulls. So you have all these types of sculpting brushes here, but you can also make your own as well. You can load a brush, or you can, you can make a brush by, I think, under, let's cancel this out just for a moment. I could select this pumpkin, and I could, let's see here. Smooth, bear with me. Two rail, extrude, weave, spin, create textured area component, add zero plane. So I could just export it out as 3D clip. I thought there was a way that I could, hold on before I do that. Let me see if it's actually in the tool. Thought there was a button I could click and turn something into a sculpting brush. Load brush. Where is that button? Alright, so first off, I would have to, before I go into this tool, I would have to export this as clip art. So if I selected this pumpkin model, export as 3D clip art, and I got to put it in my sculpting brushes folder, which is located on the C drive, users, public documents, Vectric files, sculpting brushes. Let's call this pumpkin, which I don't know why I would make a sculpting brush as a pumpkin, but let's go back into here now and add. Use sculpting brush, load. There's my pumpkin. Now, when I am, bear with me, it's still loading. There we go. Let's zoom out so we can see this. With that pumpkin brush, I could, depending on, I could change the angle. I could change the strength, the smoothness. Let's go with this here, and oh, let me twiddle my view again. Twiddle, I love that. Twiddle my view. Okay, now if I need to turn off preserve transparency if I want to be able to put that pumpkin in other places. Whoops, don't hold your button down too long. Otherwise it will not create, use your sculpting brush in that blank area. It'll only create it in the model area and stuff. So let me discard that. Okay, let's turn that strength down just a little bit. I got transparency turned off because I may want to use this kind of as a texture, which is an ugly texture. but I may just want to stamp it, you know, in different places, whatever it is. I may want to use it. Let me turn it way down. Let me turn the diameter down and the strength down. For whatever reason, I may want to, you know, add that shape, and I can brush with it, and I can kind of create this, you know, the pumpkin's not the good choice for that. Things like the sand or the gravel, I can create this texture with it and stuff. If you concentrate too much in one area, then, you know, you're just building up, you know, where that goes. So you're either doing a kind of a click, you know, to create that. We can make it a little bit bigger over here. So you can create your, long story short, you can create your own sculpting brushes based on a model. Export it out as a clip art and put it in that sculpting brush, you know. But the preloaded brushes, let's use a different preloaded brush here. And let's go with let's go with bark, just for shits and giggles. First thing I want to do is I want to discard all those things, get rid of all that. And let's say that, let's twiddle this view. Let's say on this pumpkin that I wanted to add kind of a bark texture to it. Okay, so we're going to do an add. I'm using that bark brush. Let's turn the diameter down a little bit. And I want to change the angle. Let's go to this pumpkin. Okay. We'll catch. Okay. We should stop buffering any moment now. Okay. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Yep, you can sit by, Blue Knight. Yeah, that sculpting brush was a little bit CPU intensive, so it Aspire is CPU intensive altogether. But it buffered a little bit, a lot. Anyway, sculpting brush, you can add your own brushes by creating models of different types, saving them in the sculpting folder, and you can use them kind of as a sculpting brush. It comes with some pre-loaded ones already of different things, and you can have fun with it. But that's all I'm going to go back on that one. That's all I'm going to talk about on the sculpting brush, because I don't want to go through that buffering again. I mean, that was a whole 10 minutes of buffering there. Let's see here. We're back in good condition. So we'll see if things screws up. All right. Please put if you have a question and everything, put a question mark in front of your question so I can differentiate what's a question and what's not. Would love to see a video with you and Michael D, Dave G, and Mark L, the Vectric Superstars, all in one spot. The nugget of info you guys give out is priceless. Yeah, Steve, I mean, we've done... I've been a guest on Dave Gatton's show. He has talks all the time. Dave, if you are still in class, if you're still in here, do you still do your live Saturday night group things and all? Dave has invited me to a few of those, and Mark Lindsay's in there, you know, Dave's in there. Yeah, cool stuff. Okay, Tom's made a statement for you guys. Tom Savadol, you can use JPEGs and grayscale to make stamps. Cool. John, let's see here. Good to know. Good. All right, Harvey, I know that you're doing a Thanksgiving sign. However, could you add a V-carve toolpath for eyes, nose, and mouth? A V-carve toolpath for eyes, nose, and mouth. On the pumpkin, like if I was making it a jack-o'-lantern? Yes. So let's we'll give him some star eyes. Let's make his eyes the same size. Hold that control key down. All right, let's see here. For a nose, and for a mouth, let's see here. Okay. All right. So if I was doing this as a V-carve toolpath, all right, 0 start depth. Because of the size of it and everything, I'm going to do a flat depth. So let's go, for right now, we'll go a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to use a 60-degree V-bit and the 1/8 inch end mill. So I'm going to remove the quarter. I'll do it as an offset, that's fine, but I need to project the model, project the toolpath onto the 3D model. I need to have that checked for this particular toolpath here, so that when it calculates, it will project down onto that pumpkin. First of all, let me get my pumpkin back. Let me take these vectors and copy them to the pumpkin 4 layer. Let's turn off layer 1 here, and let's get my pumpkin back on. Let's close this. Bear with me a second. Let me turn on my optics. Let me resize my pumpkin back up. All right, now on this, because my pumpkin size has changed, right? I'm going to take this pumpkin vector here that is on my original layer, and it's on the top text layer as well as the welded text layer. I'm going to open up all the layers and all, and I'm going to get rid of that vector. Okay, that's on each of those layers. I am going to redraw in my original layer here. I'm going to redraw that vector boundary. And then I'm going to copy that vector boundary to the top text layer. And then I'm going to copy that to the welded text layer. And I'm going to go through and recalculate my toolpaths. So let's recalculate all toolpaths, make sure my pumpkin's in the right spot. My pumpkin height needs to be 1/4 of an inch, 0.25. It needs to be positioned at the top of the material. Click OK and recalculate all those toolpaths. Okay, let's do that again. Recalculate. Okay. Oh, 3D rough cut, I need to select that new vector, okay, as the boundary. And the 3D finish cut, I need to select that new vector as the boundary, because I deleted the old ones, remember? All right, let's recalculate the V-carve toolpath. Make sure it's projecting onto that 3D model. All right, let's preview all the toolpaths. All right, now that on the V-carve toolpath, let's make sure that we select the proper vectors. And let me make sure on my layer 1, I still have this, vector here. Let's get rid of that. I resized it up here, so I need these vectors right there. Calculate, wonderful, let's do that one more time. Preview all the toolpaths. All right, while that's previewing, I'm going to go through and find the next question. Sorry, we were buffering. Let's see here. How many times can you put text on text? Many times you want. I've done 3 stacks is the most I've done. Text on text on text. You would just be adding a set, we have our top text toolpath, our bottom text toolpath, and so let's call that, we'll call this bottom text the middle text, right? And then you would have the same V-carve toolpath starting at 1/4, cutting another 1/8 of an inch for your third text toolpath, right? So you'd be adding another set of toolpaths and also another set of vectors. And just like we did with the top text, how we offset that top text outward on the welded text layer, we would do the same thing with the middle text. We'd offset it outward. And on the middle text layer, we'd offset that inward. So we'd be adding one more layer and doing the same thing we did with the border and the boundary and everything. Your back text doesn't get offset. So the top and the middle does. Back text does not. All 3 of those get welded together. And all. So on this pumpkin here, which doesn't fit with the sign, but if I wanted to do that, V-carve toolpath, you just have to project it onto the 3D model before you hit calculate. You got to click that button, project onto 3D model, so it follows that curve and contour and everything. But yes, I've done 3 stacks text on text. I've never done anything more than that. I think it would be a little bit too convoluted by then. Congested. Convoluted, congested. One of the two. One of those is the proper term. All right, let's see here. Welcome, Chris. All right, so that's how we would add. We just that V-carve toolpath. Whatever your draw out your vectors. You're starting at 0. How deep? If you're doing a flat depth, what the flat depth is, what your bits are, and you are projecting onto the 3D model. So that brings it down to the surface of that 3D model, so it follows that contour. Okay. All right. Now, if it's not on a model, if you have a 3D carving and then out to the sides your V carving text, you still project it onto the 3D model. Okay. Because normally all of this material is getting milled away, so that model's raised, so there's a new plane created, and you need that text to carve down on that new plane. Okay, it doesn't physically have to be on the model. It can be in the same project as the model, but it needs to be projected down. Okay. if it's a simple V-carve. So that way it carves in the right place. Example, if I came in here and typed in let's see, yeah, let's go with just a simple Arial for this, or Cambria is fine. Text or whatever it would be, projected, right? Projected. All right, let's move that here. Let's say that's over here. And let's say I've got a carving that's just this occurred, that all the material's been milled away so that carving can stand up on, you know, three-dimensionally, right? So when I am creating that V-carve toolpath, I'm still starting at 0. In this case, I'm not going to do any flat depth, and I'm not going to use any end mill, but I need to project that so that if we turn this to the side, it brings that depth down to that new surface plane that was created by that model being raised, right? So that way it carves, you know, where it's supposed to. If I did not do that, if I did not project it, okay, let's preview. We gotta really quickly preview all the toolpaths again. The toolpath that you should see where it says text projected, you will not see that because it wasn't projected down. Okay. All right. Yep, I'm here. We had a little bit of a buffering thing earlier. It was a little intensive, but see that text projected, you can't see it because, you know, it's starting at 0, cutting a 1/16 of an inch. It's up in the air. All that material's been milled away. We need to project it onto the 3D model so that it carves in the correct spot. Okay? Cool beans. All right. Let's get rid of that. Let's reset this. And I want to, one last time, I want to preview all these except for this last, what is it? That one I don't want, and that one I don't want. Cool beans. All right, let's fix this. Preview those visible toolpaths. All right, guys, we're getting ready to wrap up. It's 9:10. We've been going at it for 2 hours. I'll give it another 5 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, last minute questions, let's go. Paul Coffey, confusing question mark. What do you mean by that? Let me know if that's a statement for me or for someone else that you were talking about. Let's see. But if you have any more questions, now's the time to ask them as we start to wind down on this and everything. So we did a simple text on text sign with a 3D model in there. You know, I might go find some models of 3D models of some leaves or something. I might throw something in here. I could throw a texture in the background. So while we're waiting, let's select this inner, this boundary, and that boundary, and that boundary. Yeah. Actually, turn off the original, turn off the pumpkin for a minute. Welded text. There we go. All I need is that boundary and my G. Hey, is my G in my model? It is. Huh. Okay, it wasn't selected. Let's select that as well. Now, what I'm going to do with the welded text is I'm going to select the menu and say select all those vectors, right? I want all the vectors there, except for I want the inside one here. Okay, so I'm going to go into my texturing toolpath real quickly. And I'm going to start at 1/4 of an inch because that's how deep my pocket is. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. Eighth-inch tapered ball nose. I am going to do a maximum cut depth of about 1/8 of an inch. Maximum length, let's go 1 inch. Overlap, I'll overlap. Yeah, about 30% is good. Step over, I'll step over half the diameter of the bit. And I'm going to go at a slight little angle. I'm going to go about 10 degrees. And I don't want the ball nose cutting into my pumpkins, any of that stuff. So I'm going to have it step away by 0.0722. I'm going to go 0.125, about 1/8 of an inch. Yeah. All right, let's calculate that. While that's calculating, the next question we have, do you have a favorite text for signs? Yeah, I do actually. I bought the Heritage Font Collection, which gave me 3 or 4 fonts. One of them is called, let me get down to it. Oh, by the way, the American Scribe font. I found that online, American Scribe. That's like for if you're doing declaration type documents and all that for flags and all. It's pretty cool. But let's go down to the fonts that I got with that Heritage collection. There was the Black River Bold in that collection. There was the Brillion, which is really cool for signs. Brillion, Brilon. In the gotta go down to the M's. I keep saying the M's, and I just want to make sure there's LM. The Morosa font was in there along with the little swishes and swashes, which was cool. That's part of that font collection. And last but not least, it was the old Alfie was in there, which is a really nice font. Those 4 font families are in what's called the Heritage Collection from Heritage Type Fonts, and it was on sale, like $40 or whatever, and you know, so that's my those are kind of my favorite fonts. Let's see here. Chris Lee says, hey, can you get the same results for the project text element by using a start at a certain depth? Surely this isn't considered a 3D model like an STL or height map. This is a 3D model because it's got that pumpkin in there, which is a 3D model. But yes, Chris, I could say start at, on my start depth, instead of starting at 0, I could start at 1/4 of an inch with no flat depth, do not project it and everything. I could start down there and all, or if I was out in the field and everything. But if I'm actually following, like if I'm carving text in the banner of a model, you know, and I need it to follow that curve and flow, then it's a 0 start depth, whatever your flat depth is, if there's one, and you project it onto that model. Okay, you project it on that model, because it then projects it down on the model and it follows that flow and curve. You have to do that. 0 start depth, whatever your flat depth is, project onto model. If it's physically on the model, but if it's out in the field where I did that text and all, I could have very simply said start at 1/4 of an inch, you know, and calculate, right? So either way. But yes, if that text on text and all wasn't there and I just carved that pumpkin and I milled away that material so that pumpkin could be 3D raised, then it's still a 3D model. It's still considered a 3D model. Okay, so there's a little bit of texture in that model to give a little bit of background texture and stuff in there. All right. It's missing something down here. Have a blessed Thanksgiving from our family to yours or something like that. There would be, you know, something in there. Probably want to add some more text and build that up. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Gothic looks good, Paul says, on any signs. That's cool. The Gothic font. And Dugan says, so I'm thinking way too complicated to do something like that from a photo. Dugan, do something like what from a photo? With the Vectric Aspire software, you can turn a photo into a 3D model. It's not really going to be the greatest. No, there's going to be a lot of sculpting and cleanup you're going to have to do depending on the quality of that photo and all. But you know, depending on what it is that you're trying to do, I mean, yeah, it would probably be a little bit more complicated to do from a photo. Let's see here. Where did you get the text pack from? Again, lost you. Heritage Font. Heritage Font. Let me see. Heritage Type. Let me see if I can find the Heritage Type. .com. All right, I'll put the link. Copy. I'll put the link in the chat area. Kool-Aid. Paste. Okay. And the particular bundle was the vintage font bundle that comes up right on the main screen. Okay. And then there's other fonts. There's the ornament bundle, which is pretty cool. That has a lot of graphics and ornaments and signs and, you know, panels and shields and stuff. But they have fonts, they have illustrations, all kinds of things. But heritagetype.com. Cool stuff. All right. Okay. All right, everybody. So we're going to wrap up here and say our goodbyes. Hopefully, a lot of you got something out of those questions that the people asked, that the folks asked. Hopefully, you got something out of the answers that I provided. And hopefully, this was very useful to you. From time to time, like once a month or so, I try to throw a Q&A in to, you know, give you guys and girls to ask a chance to ask questions that we might not get to during a regular class or something. So you know, keep those questions coming. You ask, I answer, and be sure to jump in these Q&A type live events because it's a great way to get the answers to the questions that you're looking for. All right, everybody. Until next time, thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Hit that like, thumbs up button if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. See you next time.